The world had barely recovered from the shock of Oumuamua's first visit. A fast-moving interstellar object that had slipped through the edge of our solar system, Oumuamua had captured humanity's imagination. Was it an asteroid? A comet? Or something else entirely? Scientists had spent months studying its unusual shape and behavior. Some believed it could even be a probe sent from an unknown civilization. The world had debated, speculated, and dismissed, but they all thought it was gone until now. Elon Musk's hands trembled slightly as he adjusted his glasses, staring into the camera. His expression was unusually serious, a far cry from the usual confidence he exuded when talking about SpaceX's latest missions. The live stream was running, watched by millions, but tonight the atmosphere was different. The anticipation was palpable. There was something Musk had been hiding, something that would change everything. The screen behind him flickered to life, showing an image, an unmistakable image of Oumuamua. But this time, it wasn't alone. "It's back," Musk said, his voice steady but carrying a weight that sent chills down the spine of everyone watching. "And it's not alone." The camera zoomed in on the image, a close-up of Oumuamua, the cigar-shaped object that had first puzzled scientists when it appeared out of nowhere, now appeared in the frame alongside several other objects similar in shape and speed. There was no doubt about it. Oumuamua had returned, and this time it was bringing something with it. The live chat exploded with questions. Is it a probe? Is it an invasion? What does this mean for Earth? Musk let out a deep breath and motioned for the screen to be cut. He had seen the same footage earlier that morning, and the realization hit him harder than any launch failure, any SpaceX setback. There was something unsettling about the objects, something far more sinister than anyone could have predicted. Scientists around the world immediately scrambled to identify the new arrivals. Were they related to Oumuamua? Were they coming from the same distant star system? Or had something far more terrifying occurred? Had a fleet of alien ships just arrived at the edge of Earth's atmosphere? The media frenzy was immediate. News outlets around the globe ran the footage, speculating on the meaning of the object's return. Governments started holding emergency meetings, but Musk knew that what they saw in the sky was just the beginning. His heart raced as he thought about what might come next. But there was more. A mysterious transmission, something the public hadn't been privy to, had been intercepted. Space agencies had tried to decode it, but the message was encrypted, ancient, and unfamiliar. The unknowns were piling up faster than the answers, and Musk had never felt more uncertain. For all his achievements, for all his triumphs in the realm of space, Oumuamua's return felt different. The clock was ticking, and the world was on the edge of something it couldn't understand. With every second that passed, the questions grew louder. Why had Oumuamua returned? What did it mean that it wasn't alone? Were they coming in peace, or was this a sign of something far darker? Musk exhaled, his mind racing as the weight of the unknowns settled over him. If humanity was going to survive this, they would need answers. Fast. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? Elon Musk sat in the dimly lit control room at SpaceX's headquarters, his eyes glued to the blinking monitors in front of him. His fingers danced over the keyboard, pulling up data from telescopes all over the world. For hours, the team had been gathering information, piecing together fragments of a puzzle that didn't quite fit. But one thing was becoming clear. The objects following Oumuamua were not simply in orbit, they were moving toward Earth. A low murmur ran through the room as the lead astrophysicist, Dr. Clara Sullivan, leaned in to examine the latest readout. "Elon, you need to see this." Musk pushed back from his chair, his heart beginning to race. He had always believed in the potential of space exploration, but this was different. This was no ordinary mission. This was something humanity might never be prepared for. The screen in front of him flickered again, this time showing a visual of the object's trajectories. The shapes were unmistakable. Oumuamua in the center, flanked by at least 3 other objects all traveling in formation. They weren't just passing by Earth, they were coming closer, much closer. Are they Are they accelerating? Musk asked, his voice low but filled with dread. Dr. Sullivan nodded, her face pale. Yes, they're speeding up. If their current trajectory holds, they'll enter Earth's orbit in just under 4 days. Musk's eyes narrowed as he scanned the data. The math didn't lie. These objects were not natural, they were purposeful. This wasn't a random encounter. Whoever, or whatever, had sent Oumuamua was now moving toward Earth with intention. Heavy silence fell over the room. Every scientist, every engineer, and every astronaut who had gathered in the control room shared the same unspoken question. Why? Musk swallowed hard, trying to shake the growing unease that gnawed at him. He had spent his life pushing the boundaries of human knowledge, but this was beyond anything he had ever imagined. The very notion that an alien presence, a new intelligence that existed beyond the confines of Earth, might be making its way to humanity's doorstep, was a reality too strange to fully grasp. He turned to Dr. Sullivan. What are the chances this is some kind of military experiment? She shook her head slowly. No human technology could match this speed, Elon. These objects, they're moving faster than anything we've ever seen. And Oumuamua, it wasn't even from our solar system. We have no idea where it came from, but it's not military, it's alien. A chill ran down Musk's spine at the word alien. It had always been a concept, something far out in the realm of science fiction. But now the word was terrifyingly real. Oumuamua and its companions were not just anomalies, they were a message from the stars, and it was heading straight for Earth. The weight of the decision hit Musk all at once. He needed to tell the world. But how? The chaos would be overwhelming. Governments would panic, the public would demand answers. Was humanity truly ready to face such a monumental truth? But there was no time to waste. The objects were drawing nearer by the second, and the clock was ticking. Musk turned to the team, his voice firm, despite the turmoil inside him. Prepare the data for the press release. We need to go public with this immediately. Dr. Sullivan hesitated. Elon, if this is what we think it is, if these objects are truly alien, we need more time to study them. We don't know how they'll react to us or what they want. I don't think we have that luxury, Musk replied, his voice a mix of determination and fear. We need to prepare the world. We need to start figuring out what these objects are, and fast. There's no going back from this. Whatever happens next, it's beyond our control. As the team scrambled to compile data, Musk found himself pacing the room. His mind raced with questions, but one stood out above all the others. Why Oumuamua? And why now? The message they had intercepted earlier had been cryptic, but the tone was clear. Oumuamua was a harbinger. Its return wasn't a coincidence. The objects trailing it weren't simply passing through. They were here to stay. And whatever they brought with them, Earth was about to find out. As the press release was finalized and sent out, Musk felt the weight of the world on his shoulders. He had always been a visionary, but this was no longer about creating electric cars or sending humans to Mars. This was about the survival of humanity itself. If these objects were as dangerous as he feared, the very future of Earth could be at stake. Minutes later, the announcement was live. The headlines blared across every major news network. Elon Musk reveals Oumuamua's return is terrifying, and it's not alone. The world had just woken up to a new reality, and that reality was more terrifying than anyone could have imagined. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? The days following Musk's announcement were a blur of global uncertainty and mounting tension. The world watched in anxious silence as governments, scientists, and defense agencies scrambled to make sense of the objects approaching Earth. SpaceX's control room had become a war room, buzzing with activity, its walls filled with data, graphs, and maps, tracking the object's movement. Elon Musk sat at the center of it all, his face a portrait of focus and worry. Each new piece of information seemed to raise more questions than answers. The objects, now confirmed to be following Oumuamua, were not behaving like anything humanity had ever encountered. They weren't just drifting, they were adjusting their trajectories, as though they were intentionally guiding their course toward Earth. Dr. Clara Sullivan sat next to Musk, her eyes glued to her screen. "I don't like this, Elon," she said, her voice tinged with concern. "These objects they're not just following Oumuamua, they're actively adjusting their paths in response to the gravitational pull of Earth." Musk ran a hand through his hair, the weight of the situation settling deeper into his bones. "You think they're here on purpose?" "It's too precise to be a coincidence," Clara replied. "They're aiming directly for us." "Have we detected any more transmissions from them?" Musk asked, his voice low. Clara shook her head. "Nothing new. The first transmission we intercepted was short, just a series of strange signals, hardly enough to decipher. But I've been analyzing the patterns and there's something off about them. It's almost like they're trying to communicate, but it's fractured, fragmented. I can't make sense of it." Musk's eyes narrowed. "A language barrier?" "Possibly. Or something else. Something more complex." Musk leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms. The idea of a communication breakdown between Earth and alien life was unsettling. Could this be a peaceful encounter? Or was it a prelude to something far worse? Before he could speak further, his phone rang. He glanced at the screen. An encrypted call. It was from an unrecognized number, but he knew immediately who it was. "Elon," the voice on the other end said, crisp and authoritative. "This is Director Harris. I need you to meet me in person. We've intercepted something you need to see." Musk's heart skipped a beat. "What's going on, Harris?" "It's better you see it for yourself. We're bringing you in. It's urgent." The line went dead before Musk could respond. He looked up at Clara. "I have to go. They want me to meet them." Clara's expression was one of quiet concern. "Are you sure it's safe?" Musk nodded, though he felt anything but certain. "If they're sending someone from the top, it means they've found something serious. We'll have answers soon." Hours later, Musk found himself in a private government facility deep within the mountains of Nevada, surrounded by high-ranking military officials and intelligence officers. The air was thick with tension. Director Harris led him through a sterile corridor, stopping in front of a heavy steel door that required multiple biometric scans to unlock. The hum of technology and security systems filled the space as they entered a large, dimly lit room. Inside, a massive screen on the wall displayed the same images of Oumuamua and its companions, now much closer to Earth than they had been just a few hours ago. The objects were growing larger in the sky, their shadows stretching across continents. The room was filled with military personnel, scientists and data analysts, all working in overdrive. Harris motioned for Musk to sit as he stared at the images. "What you're about to see could change everything, Elon." On the screen, a new image appeared, an image Musk had never expected to see, a massive structure floating just behind Oumuamua. The object appeared to be a colossal spacecraft, unlike anything man-made, with sharp angles and a reflective surface that seemed to shimmer under the light of distant stars. It was huge, far too large to be anything remotely human. Musk's breath caught in his throat. "What is that?" Harris hesitated, his expression grim. "We believe it's their mothership." The room fell into an eerie silence. Musk could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on him. Oumuamua had been the first sign, the mysterious messenger. But this was the real threat. The mothership was no longer just a possibility. It was a cold, hard reality, and it was moving toward Earth. "We've been analyzing the data," Harris continued, "and we've detected energy signatures coming from the ship. They're unlike anything we've ever encountered before. It's not just a ship, it's a massive, complex piece of technology, and it's far more advanced than anything we could even begin to understand." "Are you saying they're preparing to land?" Musk asked, his voice tight with apprehension. Harris shook his head. "Not necessarily. We don't know their intentions yet. But the energy levels suggest they're preparing for something big." Musk leaned forward, trying to process the flood of information. The mothership was close. Too close. And whatever it wanted, whatever it was here to do, the time to prepare was running out. If the alien presence had already crossed this threshold, humanity had no more time for miscalculations. A sudden realization hit him. Oumuamua wasn't just a messenger. It was a scout, an advanced reconnaissance probe sent to survey Earth before the true mission arrived. The mothership was the force that would make contact, or worse, demand something from humanity. "I need to get back to SpaceX," Musk said, his voice growing more determined. "We have to figure out a way to communicate with them before it's too late." Harris held up his hand. "We've already sent messages. We've tried everything from radio waves to light pulses. Nothing has worked." Musk stood, frustration bubbling beneath his calm exterior. "Then we'll try something else. I've got a few ideas that might just work. But if we're going to survive this, we need to be one step ahead of them. Time is not on our side anymore." As Musk left the room, his mind raced. The world was on the brink of the unknown. No one knew what the alien visitors wanted or whether they came in peace. But one thing was certain. The countdown had begun. Musk's mind raced as he made his way back to SpaceX, the weight of the world pressing heavily on his shoulders. Every step felt heavier, as though the ground itself sensed the uncertainty of what lay ahead. Outside, the sky was an unsettling shade of crimson, the sun setting behind a hazy veil of clouds. The world was no longer the same. An invisible tension hung in the air, thick and suffocating. Oumuamua's return had shifted the very fabric of human existence. Once back at SpaceX headquarters, Musk gathered his core team in the war room, a quiet hum of activity filling the room. Satellite feeds were projected on the walls, all tracking the objects, Oumuamua and the mysterious mothership, now clearly visible to the naked eye, their massive forms growing larger in the night sky. The sight of them was surreal, like a scene from a science fiction film. But this was no fiction. This was real. The countdown had already started, and Earth was under a threat it wasn't prepared for. "We don't have much time," Musk said, standing before the team. His voice was calm, but there was an edge to it. He couldn't afford to let his nerves show. Not now. Dr. Clara Sullivan, ever the analytical mind, looked up from her screen. "We've been tracking their movements every hour, Elon. They're getting closer. And the energy signatures. We're seeing something we didn't expect." "What do you mean?" Musk asked, his brow furrowing. Clara paused, adjusting her glasses. "The mothership isn't just a ship. We've detected what seems to be a massive field of energy surrounding it, sort of like a protective shield. And it's expanding." "Expanding? What does that mean for us?" Musk asked, his thoughts racing. The implications were worrying. "We don't know," Clara admitted. "It could mean they're preparing to enter Earth's atmosphere, or it could be a defense mechanism. Whatever it is, it's unlike anything we've encountered. It's alien." The room fell silent as the reality of the situation settled in. A protective shield. That meant they were preparing for something that could pose a direct threat to Earth's security. The pieces of the puzzle were falling into place, but the image they created was far too complex for any of them to fully understand. "Need to make contact," Musk said suddenly, his voice sharp. "I'm not going to sit here and wait for them to make the first move. We've tried everything with radio signals, but we're missing something. We need to speak to them directly, on their terms." One of the engineers spoke up from the back of the room. "But how do we communicate with them? They don't speak our language, Elon." "That's the problem," Musk said, pacing across the room. "We don't know what they want, and they don't know what we want. But if we don't try to communicate, we might find ourselves on the receiving end of something we can't stop." Clara looked thoughtful. "There's something about the energy field surrounding the mothership. It's not just an obstacle. It's like they're trying to send a signal, an invitation, or a warning. We just haven't figured out how to decode it." Musk stopped in his tracks and turned to face her, his mind working furiously. What if it's not about decoding the signal? What if the signal is the key to reaching them? What if they're waiting for us to make the first move? They're not like us, their technology, their methods, they're beyond our comprehension. We need to do something bold, something that shows them we're ready to talk. "And what do you propose?" Clara asked, raising an eyebrow. Musk's eyes sparkled with determination. "I've been thinking about something. We have one advantage. We have technology that could create an electromagnetic pulse, a sort of open channel. If we can emit a signal, something powerful enough, It might be able to cut through their field and grab their attention. But we'll need to amplify the signal and transmit it directly into their energy field. A murmur ran through the room. The idea was daring, borderline reckless, but Musk was convinced it was the only way forward. Time was running out. If they didn't act soon, the mothership would be close enough to make contact, whatever that might mean. And they'd be left without any way to understand their intentions. "Start working on it," Musk commanded. "We'll need everything in place within the next 24 hours. I want that signal ready to go." As the team scrambled to implement the plan, Musk felt his mind wander. He wasn't worried about failure. SpaceX had overcome impossible odds before. But this was different. This was humanity's first real encounter with an alien intelligence. There were no protocols, no backup plans. Every decision could mean life or death. His phone buzzed on the table. He glanced at it, seeing an incoming video call. It was from NASA. "Put it on the screen," Musk ordered, his eyes narrowing. The image flickered, and the familiar face of NASA's director, Dr. David Myers, appeared. His face was grim, the weight of the situation etched into every line of his expression. "Elon," Dr. Myers began, his voice tight with urgency, "we've just received new intel. The mothership is not just moving closer, it's shifting its position to align directly above the equator." Musk's heart skipped a beat. "What does that mean?" "It means they're preparing for something," Myers said. "We don't know if it's a landing or an assault, but they're targeting a specific location. We've ruled out natural phenomena. This is intentional, and it's happening fast." Musk's mind raced. "We need to contact them now, before it's too late." Dr. Myers nodded, his eyes heavy with the gravity of the situation. "We've already initiated contact from multiple channels, but if they're moving toward Earth with such precision, it might mean they've already chosen their path. We have to be ready for whatever comes next." Musk hung up, his mind a whirlwind of possibilities. The countdown was no longer theoretical. They were out of time. Every decision from here on out would determine the fate of humanity. "We need to finish what we started," Musk said to his team, his voice firm. "Prepare the pulse. I don't care what it takes. We send a message tonight." The countdown was ticking, and all they could do now was hope that their message would be heard. The hum of computers and the sharp clicking of keyboards filled the air as SpaceX's control room worked in a frenzied blur. The time was ticking down, each second a pulse that seemed to vibrate through the very core of Musk's being. The alien mothership was closer now, its vast form unmistakable as it hovered above the equator. Satellites tracked its every movement. The protective energy field surrounding it shimmered with a faint glow, an ethereal barrier that kept anything from getting too close. Yet, despite the overwhelming odds, Musk was determined to push forward. The electromagnetic pulse was ready. Musk paced the room, his fingers running through his hair, his thoughts a chaotic whirl. His team was on high alert. Every engineer, every scientist, and every analyst knew what was at stake. The fate of the planet could rest on this single, fragile moment. "Elon," Clara said, her voice filled with quiet urgency. "We're ready. The pulse is calibrated. We just need to send it. But once we do, we can't predict what will happen next. It could work, or it could provoke a response we're not prepared for." Musk turned to her, his face unreadable. "We don't have a choice. If we don't do something, we're at their mercy." He turned back to the central console. The countdown clock flashed ominously, its numbers ticking down relentlessly. It was just a matter of minutes now. The pulse was set to transmit directly into the mothership's energy field, a signal powerful enough to cut through the dense barrier, but also potentially capable of revealing the full scale of the ship's capabilities. "Initiate," Musk commanded. The room fell into an eerie silence as the signal was sent. For a brief, unbearable moment, nothing happened. Then, as if on cue, the massive screen in front of them flickered to life. On the display, the object now known as the mothership responded. A surge of light radiated from its center, powerful enough to make the entire control room flicker with static. The electromagnetic pulse had worked, but it wasn't just a signal, it was a reaction. What is that?" one of the engineers whispered, her eyes wide. The light on the screen began to shift, swirling in patterns that resembled symbols, forming an image that almost seemed to reach out to the observers below. It was a language, but not any language that had ever been seen before. Clara adjusted her glasses, her voice barely audible. "It's communicating, but not with words." Musk stood motionless, his heart pounding in his chest. This wasn't a response he had expected. It was something far more sophisticated. The symbols danced across the screen, flowing like liquid light. Every movement seemed deliberate, calculated. The alien intelligence was attempting to communicate, but it was using a method far beyond the scope of human understanding. "Can we translate it?" Musk asked, the urgency in his voice rising. "I don't know," Clara admitted, "but this isn't just a message. It's as if it's trying to read us or gauge our response." Musk's mind raced. If the mothership was studying their reaction, it meant that their every move was being scrutinized. The fear in the room began to shift into something else, uncertainty, mixed with the dawning realization that they were no longer in control of the situation. They had initiated the first contact, but now they were the ones being studied. Minutes passed as the symbols shifted and morphed, seemingly endless. Then, just as suddenly as the display had begun, it stopped. The swirling lights disappeared, and the screen went dark. For a split second, the room held its breath. Then a new message appeared on the screen, this one in clear, unmistakable text. "We are not here to destroy. We are here to understand." A collective gasp rippled through the control room. Musk's heart skipped a beat as the weight of the message settled in. The alien presence wasn't here to conquer. It wasn't here to enslave. It was here to learn. But what did that mean for Earth? What were they truly after? Before Musk could respond, another message appeared, this one far more direct. "Do not resist. Cooperation will ensure your survival." The room fell into stunned silence. There was no anger, no threat of violence, just a cold, calculated warning. A promise, perhaps. But a promise tied to an unmistakable command. Musk swallowed hard, trying to process the enormity of the moment. "What does it want us to do?" he muttered, almost to himself. Clara's voice broke the silence. "It's not about what we want, Helen. It's about what they're demanding, and if we don't comply—" Musk interrupted her, his eyes locked on the screen. "We have no choice. We need to work with them, for now at least." Another voice cut through the tension, this one from the back of the room. It was Dr. David Myers from NASA, who had been watching the events unfold with quiet intensity. "Are we sure we can trust them?" he asked, his voice steady but filled with skepticism. "They say they don't want to destroy us, but what if that's just a ruse? What if this is just the beginning of something far more sinister?" Musk turned to face him, his gaze unwavering. "We don't have the luxury of hesitation, David. We've made contact and they've responded. Whether we like it or not, we have to deal with this. Our next move could determine the future of humanity." The tension in the room was palpable, as everyone realized the gravity of what lay ahead. Musk's thoughts swirled as he stared at the screen. There were still so many unanswered questions about the alien technology, their intentions, and the true nature of their mission. But for now, the only thing that mattered was moving forward. Humanity had taken its first steps toward interstellar contact, and there was no turning back. Suddenly, the lights in the control room dimmed. The flicker of the monitors seemed to intensify. And then, just as abruptly, the mothership's energy field began to pulse again, sending out another signal. This one, however, was different. It wasn't just a message, it was a command. The screen blinked and a final message appeared. "Meet us at the designated coordinates. Time is short." Musk felt his pulse quicken. The alien presence was waiting. They had set the stage for the next move. "Prepare the team," Musk said, his voice firm, commanding. "We're going to meet them." As he spoke, the countdown clock continued ticking down in the corner of the room. They had just begun a journey into the unknown, and the clock was running out. The decision had been made. With the cryptic message from the mothership still fresh in their minds, Musk stood at the head of the SpaceX command center, watching as his team scrambled to prepare for what could be the most important moment in human history. The alien ship had given them coordinates, and it was clear They were being summoned. But what would they find there? Musk didn't know. He only knew that they couldn't afford to ignore this opportunity. The future of humanity was at stake. The coordinates were on the edge of the Pacific Ocean, just off the coast of an uninhabited island. It was a remote location, perfect for a rendezvous. Not that it would matter, Musk thought. If the mothership's intentions were hostile, it didn't matter where they were. The world's defenses would be ineffective against a force of that magnitude. The only option was to take a leap of faith. "We have one shot at this," Musk said, his voice carrying the weight of the moment. "This is the beginning of something far bigger than any of us. Prepare the Dragon capsule. I'll be going alone." Clara looked at him, her face a mask of concern. "Elon, are you sure? You're the only one who can—" "I know the risks," Musk interrupted, his tone resolute. "But if we're going to understand them, if we're going to have any chance of surviving, it has to be now. I'm going. I'll keep communication open, and if anything goes wrong, we'll abort. But we can't sit around anymore." Clara hesitated, clearly torn. "We've never faced anything like this before. Are you really prepared to put everything on the line?" Musk's eyes met hers, and for a brief moment, something softer flickered behind his usual determination. "It's not about being prepared, Clara. It's about having the courage to step into the unknown. And right now the world needs that courage." The decision was made. The Dragon capsule, already prepped for a quick launch, stood ready on the launch pad. It was the same capsule that had been used for missions to the International Space Station, but this mission was different. There were no safety nets, no guarantees of success. This was uncharted territory, a journey into the heart of an alien mystery. As the countdown began, Musk felt a mixture of adrenaline and dread. Every muscle in his body was tense. Every thought focused on the unknown that awaited him. This wasn't just a mission for SpaceX, it was a mission for all of humanity. The alien mothership wasn't just a scientific curiosity, it was a challenge, a test of everything humanity had built, everything they had believed in, and Musk was at the front lines. The engines roared to life and the Dragon capsule shot upward, piercing through the atmosphere with remarkable speed. Below, Earth receded into the distance, the blue planet fading into a backdrop of stars. As the capsule entered orbit, Musk's heart rate slowed. There was a strange serenity in the weightlessness of space. It was almost as if the universe itself was holding its breath. "Status report," Musk asked, his voice calm, though his mind was anything but. "We're on track, Elon," one of the engineers on the ground replied. "Trajectory looks good. We'll reach the coordinates in approximately 30 minutes. Musk nodded, but his mind was already elsewhere. He knew what lay ahead was unpredictable. If the mothership was truly waiting for them, what kind of reception would they receive? What were the aliens capable of? Could they trust the message they'd been given? Time seemed to stretch endlessly as he approached the designated area. The capsule's instruments beeped, alerting him that they were nearing the coordinates. Below, the ocean shimmered beneath the void of space, calm and undisturbed, as if nothing unusual were about to unfold. Then, as he crossed into the final stretch, the vast form of the mothership appeared in his view. It was even more massive than he had imagined. A towering structure, almost like a floating city in the sky, surrounded by a faint, pulsating energy field. Its sleek, otherworldly design defied the conventional laws of physics, and its sheer size made the Dragon capsule feel insignificant in comparison. "This is it," Musk muttered to himself. His hand hovered over the communication button. "Ground. Control, we're approaching the target. Prepare to establish contact." "We're ready on this end," came the reply. He didn't wait. He pressed the button, sending a burst of communication directly to the mothership. The light on the capsule's console flickered in response, signaling the ship's readiness to receive the message. Then a strange, low hum filled the cabin, a sound unlike anything Musk had ever heard before. It resonated not just in his ears, but in his very chest, a deep, vibrating frequency that seemed to reach into the core of his being. For a moment, there was nothing but the sound, and then on the screen before him the alien symbols appeared once more. "Approach with caution. Prepare for final dialogue." Musk's breath caught in his throat. This was it. They were going to communicate. The first true exchange between humans and an alien species. "Do they want me to board?" Musk asked, his voice barely more than a whisper. Clara's voice crackled through the communicator. "It looks like it, Elon. But remember, we don't know what they'll do once you're on their ship. Please be careful." Musk nodded, though his resolve was unshaken. If humanity was going to take the next step, he was the one who had to make it. His hand gripped the controls, and he guided the Dragon capsule toward the mothership. As he neared the massive vessel, the energy field surrounding it began to shimmer, pulsing with light. It wasn't hostile. It was like an invitation, an opening beckoning him closer. There was no turning back now. The mothership's enormous surface gleamed under the dim light of distant stars, a vast, enigmatic presence that seemed to pulse with intelligence. The final approach was slow. Each second stretched into eternity, but Musk's focus never wavered. He was about to make history, humanity's first contact with an alien civilization. He was about to step into the unknown, the capsule aligned with a docking bay on the mothership. As the magnetic clamps locked into place, Musk's heartbeat quickened. This was the moment. Everything had led to this point. The door of the Dragon. Capsule hissed open, and a ramp extended from the mothership. A soft blue light bathed the surroundings, casting eerie shadows across the barren ocean below. Musk took one last look at Earth, so distant now, so fragile, and then, without hesitation, he stepped into the unknown. The ramp beneath Musk's feet felt like it was suspended in time, stretching out into the unknown. The blue light surrounding the entrance flickered softly, as if alive, pulsing in rhythm with the hum of the mothership's unseen energy. He inhaled deeply, his breath shallow but steady, trying to calm the pounding of his heart. The door hissed shut behind him, sealing him inside the alien vessel. The air was thick with a strange, otherworldly scent, unlike anything Musk had ever encountered. It was clean but almost too sterile, with a faint metallic edge to it. The walls were smooth and seamless, seemingly made of a substance that reflected light, but also absorbed it in a way that defied earthly materials. The interior of the ship was vast, far more enormous than any human-made spacecraft. It felt like an entire city had been built inside. The walls seemed to stretch into infinity, and Musk's mind struggled to comprehend the scale. It was as though the laws of physics themselves were bent here, altering space to accommodate a reality that no human had ever imagined. Musk took a cautious step forward, every instinct telling him to stay alert. But there was a curious calmness here, an eerie silence that felt almost inviting. The blue light that surrounded him intensified for a moment, before receding, revealing an elongated corridor ahead. At the far end, he saw a dim light pulsating softly, beckoning him forward. He moved, his footsteps soundless against the metallic floor. The air seemed to hum around him, not in a way that made him feel anxious, but rather in a manner that suggested communication, as if the ship itself were alive, aware of his every movement. "Elon, can you hear me?" Clara's voice crackled through his earpiece. "I'm here," Musk replied softly, his gaze fixed on the corridor. "This place, it's unlike anything I've ever seen. It's vast, Clara, like a living organism. But at the same time, I don't feel threatened." "You're sure you're safe?" Clara asked, her concern palpable through the static. "For now, yes. I'm moving toward a light. I don't know what's waiting for me, but I'm not turning back." As Musk advanced through the corridor, the walls seemed to shift with him, subtly bending as if acknowledging his presence. The feeling of being watched, though intangible, weighed heavily on him. Yet there was something compelling about this strange environment. It felt like being on the cusp of something extraordinary, a moment of discovery that could forever change human understanding. The light ahead intensified, and Musk quickened his pace, his hand tightening around the small communicator in his ear. It was the only connection to Earth, the only tether to everything he knew. His fingers brushed against the smooth surface of the walls, and in that moment, it felt as though the ship was responding to his touch, reacting to his very presence. He rounded a corner, and suddenly, the corridor opened up into a massive chamber. The space was unlike anything he had ever seen, a room that stretched for what seemed like miles, with an enormous spherical structure at the center. The sphere was composed of intricate glowing patterns that shimmered in a kaleidoscope of colors. It looked like a fusion of organic and technological elements, its surface constantly shifting, like a living puzzle. For the first time, Musk felt a twinge of something deeper than curiosity: fear. The sheer size and complexity of the room left him feeling small and insignificant, and yet the sphere seemed to pulse with a calming rhythm, inviting him closer. As Musk moved toward it, the walls around him began to change once more. They split open in large sections, revealing panels that seemed to hum with life. It was as if the ship itself was unfolding, becoming aware of his presence, drawing him closer to the center. And then he saw them. A group of beings stood in front of the sphere. They were tall, their forms humanoid, yet distinctly alien. Their skin was a smooth, translucent shade, glowing faintly with the same blue light that had guided him here. Their eyes were the most striking feature, large, luminescent, and black, with a depth that seemed to hold the weight of entire galaxies. Within them, there were no mouths, no visible signs of communication, at least not in any way Musk could comprehend. But as they turned toward him, he could feel an overwhelming sense of understanding wash over him. It was as if they didn't need words. Their presence alone spoke volumes. Musk stood frozen for a moment, unsure of what to do next. The beings didn't move, yet their eyes seemed to follow his every movement. And then, as if acknowledging his hesitation, one of them extended a long, delicate arm toward the sphere. Without thinking, Musk followed suit. He approached the sphere, his hand outstretched. As his fingers brushed against it, the patterns on the surface of the sphere shifted, revealing a complex series of symbols that were impossibly intricate and alien, but somehow they made sense. It was like the ship itself was speaking to him, communicating through patterns and energy, telling him something he could not yet understand. And then the voice came. It wasn't a sound, but a thought, a presence. It filled his mind as though the very essence of the ship was reaching out to him. "You have come." Musk's body stiffened. He could hear the words, but there was no voice. It was more like an impression, an exchange of ideas without the need for spoken language. "We have waited. You are ready." His breath caught in his throat. "Ready? Ready for what?" Before he could respond, the being closest to him stepped forward, raising its arm. A soft blue glow radiated from its hand, surrounding Musk. He felt a sudden rush of warmth. Not physical, but mental, like the barriers between him and the alien beings were dissolving, and he could sense their thoughts, their emotions. It was overwhelming. His head spun as images, emotions, and ideas flooded his consciousness. He saw visions of far-off galaxies, of cosmic events beyond human comprehension. He felt the weight of knowledge, of millennia of existence. It was too much, too fast. But then, amid the chaos of images and feelings, one thought pierced through clearly. "Understand, we seek knowledge. We offer understanding. Will you accept?" Musk's heart raced. The question seemed simple, but the weight of it was immense. This wasn't just a first contact, it was a pact, a crossing of boundaries that humanity had never dared to imagine. The offer was there: knowledge, understanding, a partnership beyond anything he had ever dreamed of. But the price? He wasn't sure yet. Musk's voice faltered, and for the first time in years he felt vulnerable. "I'll accept. I don't know what it means, but I'll accept." The alien being's eyes seemed to soften, if that was even possible in the absence of facial expressions. The blue light around them brightened, and the sphere began to hum, sending a wave of energy through the room. Musk closed his eyes, allowing the flood of information to wash over him, understanding, or perhaps glimpsing, what humanity's next step would be. The room vibrated with the intensity of the moment, the air thick with possibility, and just as suddenly as it had begun, the visions stopped. Musk opened his eyes to find himself alone in the room. The sphere, silent before him. The beings had vanished, leaving no trace of their presence except the overwhelming feeling that he was no longer alone in the universe. The mothership had chosen to offer its knowledge, but the question remained, what would humanity do with it? Musk's mind was a whirlwind of thoughts as he stood alone in the massive chamber. The encounter with the alien beings had shifted something deep inside him. The weight of the knowledge offered to him was more than he could fully comprehend, but one thing was certain: humanity was no longer alone in the universe. He tried to process the rush of visions, the surge of alien intelligence that had flooded his consciousness, but the questions flooded in faster than answers could form. What did this knowledge mean for Earth? What did the beings want from them? And why now? The connection was undeniable, but it left him with a gnawing feeling of uncertainty. What was the true cost of this newfound knowledge? And what would the aliens want in return? As Musk turned back toward the ramp, ready to leave the heart of the mothership, a sudden disturbance interrupted his thoughts. The ship itself seemed to respond, shuddering ever so slightly as if it were shifting gears. The soft hum of the craft intensified, and a ripple of blue light spread across the walls. A voice, not unlike the one that had communicated with him before, resonated in his mind again. Return. Oumuamua's return is near. Prepare. Musk froze. The words hit him like a bolt of lightning, as if the universe had just shifted into a new, terrifying direction. Oumuamua. The name echoed in his mind like a mantra. The object had been a mystery. When it first entered the solar system, an interstellar visitor unlike anything humans had ever seen. But now the mothership was indicating that it was returning. Oumuamua, the alien object that had first caught humanity's attention, was coming back. Elon? Clara's voice crackled through his communicator. Elon, what's going on? What did they say? They said, Oumuamua is returning, Musk responded, his voice barely above a whisper. But they didn't tell me why or how. It's like they want us to be ready. Clara's voice was a mixture of disbelief and urgency. Oumuamua? But how? It wasn't anything like a normal object. And what's the connection with the mothership? We have to understand this, Elon. Musk's mind raced. The implications of this sudden development were staggering. Oumuamua had been unlike anything ever seen before, a cigar-shaped object that accelerated in ways that defied known physics. Some had speculated it was an alien probe, while others believed it was some form of alien technology. But what if it wasn't just a visitor? What if Oumuamua was something far more significant, something tied directly to the mothership, the beings he had just encountered? He didn't have time to dwell on it. The alien voice had given him an imperative. Prepare. Without hesitation, Musk turned back to the interior of the mothership. The alien beings had given him a glimpse of the future, but this new revelation was a different kind of urgency. Oumuamua's return wasn't just a scientific anomaly, it was a threat. The chamber was still silent, save for the low hum of the ship's energy. Musk moved quickly, following the path that the aliens had shown him, moving deeper into the bowels of the mothership. His mind was fixed on one thought. Oumuamua's return was tied to something bigger than they could possibly understand. He reached the central chamber again, the massive sphere still glowing softly in the center. The walls pulsed with light, shifting and changing, as though responding to the new directive. Musk reached out toward the sphere once again, this time with a sense of urgency. As his fingers brushed its surface, the familiar sensation washed over him, visions, knowledge, and emotions flooding his mind all at once. But this time it was different. The rush of images didn't feel like an exchange of ideas. It felt like a warning. Oumuamua's return is imminent. It brings with it an arrival that will change all. The balance is fragile. Prepare. Musk's breath caught in his throat. The warning was clear, but it was also vague. What did Oumuamua bring with it? Was it a harbinger of something far more dangerous than anyone could imagine? Or was it an ally, a force meant to guide humanity into a new era? The possibilities were endless, and the stakes had never been higher. Before he could process this new information, the mothership responded in ways he hadn't expected. The central sphere began to vibrate with increasing intensity. the energy within it growing stronger, more urgent. A new series of symbols appeared, symbols that seemed to pulse with an eerie light. This time, Musk didn't wait for the visions to overwhelm him. He focused, trying to understand the meaning of the symbols, and then in a moment of clarity, a single thought pierced through his consciousness. "You are not ready." The phrase sent a cold shiver down his spine. What did that mean? Who was it directed at? Him, humanity? Was Oumuamua's return a sign that the world wasn't ready to face what lay ahead? Before he could formulate another thought, the ship's systems activated on their own, guiding him toward a new section of the mothership. The walls around him began to open and shift, creating a path that led him deeper into the unknown. The truth was becoming clearer. Something far greater than he had anticipated was about to unfold. Oumuamua's return wasn't just a curiosity, it was a countdown, a moment that could reshape the very course of human history. As Musk moved toward the new section of the ship, he felt the weight of this impending moment settle over him. He wasn't just exploring space anymore. He was on the verge of a new chapter, one that could either lead to humanity's greatest triumph or its greatest downfall. The walls of the mothership pulsed with a deep, resonant hum as Musk walked further down the newly revealed corridor. Every step he took was like an echo in a vast empty space, yet he never felt more acutely aware of his surroundings. This part of the ship felt different, almost as if it were preparing for something significant. The air around him grew colder, and the lights dimmed to an almost unsettling level, casting long shadows across the smooth walls. He couldn't shake the weight of the alien voice's last words. "You are not ready." It echoed in his mind, a constant reminder that whatever awaited him ahead could alter the fate of humanity. He wasn't sure if that message was a warning or a challenge, but he had no time to dwell on it. The return of Oumuamua was imminent, and there was something about this moment, this place that felt like a final countdown. The corridor twisted and turned, leading him deeper into the mothership's heart. The temperature dropped as he ventured further, and soon he arrived at a large chamber that made his heart skip a beat. It was unlike anything he had seen before, vast and dark, with walls made of an iridescent material that seemed to absorb all light, casting a shadow that almost felt alive. In the center of the room stood a large platform, surrounded by intricate machinery and alien technology. But it wasn't the technology that drew his attention. No, it was what lay atop the platform, a familiar shape, the cigar-like form of Oumuamua, exactly as he had seen it in the images years ago, but now it hovered above the platform, suspended in a field of glowing blue energy. The object seemed to hum with a strange harmonic resonance, its surface now alive with intricate patterns that shimmered and shifted in ways that defied explanation. It was here. It had returned, and it wasn't alone. The realization hit Musk like a freight train. The mothership wasn't just a vessel. It was part of something much larger, something that tied into Oumuamua's true purpose. The object, this interstellar visitor, wasn't just an anomaly. It was a part of a greater network, a system that had been set into motion long before humanity had even realized it. Oumuamua's return wasn't just about discovery, it was about activation. Before he could process the enormity of it all, a soft, calm voice broke the silence. It wasn't from the alien beings, but it was unmistakably directed at him. "Elon Musk, you stand at the precipice of change. Oumuamua's return signals the awakening of the next phase. The future is no longer distant, it is here." Musk's breath caught. The voice, different from the previous one, seemed to emanate from everywhere and nowhere at once. It was soothing yet ominous. The mothership was speaking to him directly, and the meaning was clear. Oumuamua was not a random visitor. It was a harbinger, a signal that the next step in the evolution of humanity had begun. "What does it mean?" Musk found himself asking aloud, his voice echoing in the empty chamber. He had no idea if the ship would answer, but the urgency in his question felt real. The voice responded with an almost imperceptible delay, as though it was choosing its words carefully. "Oumuamua carries within it the key to your survival and your destruction. You must decide. Will you embrace the knowledge that awaits you, or will you reject it? The path forward will shape the future of your species. The weight of the words crashed into Musk, and his heart raced. Survival and destruction, knowledge and rejection. The stakes had never been so high. This wasn't just about understanding alien technology. It was about the future of humanity itself. The decision he would make in the next few moments could change everything. As Musk stood there contemplating the gravity of what he had learned, the platform beneath Oumuamua began to hum, a low, resonant tone that filled the room with an unsettling energy. The object shimmered and its surface cracked open, revealing a core of swirling, luminous energy. The energy emitted a pulse, an electromagnetic field that seemed to reach out to Musk, pulling at his very essence. He stepped forward instinctively, drawn by the power of the object, feeling as though the universe itself was urging him to make a choice. The symbols that had flashed before him, the visions of distant galaxies and alien technologies, all began to coalesce into a single, undeniable truth. Oumuamua was the key to something far greater than he could have imagined, and yet the voice warned him again. You are not ready. But was humanity ready? Could they be? Musk felt the weight of that question in every fiber of his being. He was one man standing in front of the unknown, with the fate of billions resting on the choices that lay ahead. The alien knowledge promised a future of immense potential, but it also warned of destruction. Would they rise to the challenge, or would they falter and let it slip away? The object's energy grew stronger, pulsing in time with his heartbeat. His mind raced, knowing that the moment of decision had arrived. Oumuamua had returned, not just to Earth, but to humanity. It was a sign, a test, and possibly a threat. He had to make a choice, and yet the alien presence in the room seemed to sense his hesitation, almost as if it were waiting for him to make the decision. The walls of the chamber seemed to close in on him, the shadows creeping forward, the light from the object growing more intense. The voice spoke again, softer this time, as if offering a final warning. What will you choose, Elon Musk? The future of your species is in your hands. Will you take the leap or will you turn away? His hands shook as he stepped forward, and with a deep breath he placed his palm against the glowing surface of Oumuamua's core. For the briefest moment, everything went still. The entire room seemed to hold its breath, and then, in an instant, the energy surged. A brilliant light engulfed him, flooding his senses with overwhelming power, knowledge, and an undeniable sense of finality. It was as if he was connecting with the very fabric of the cosmos itself, unlocking secrets of space, time, and reality that no human had ever known. The room, the ship, the alien beings, they all faded from his awareness as he was overwhelmed by a rush of alien consciousness. The future was now. The decision had been made. The leap had been taken. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward even when things get tough?